Good morning, everyone. Okay, so we're going to talk about the solar return. A solar return happens every year on your birthday. You get like a fresh chart kind of thing. Yeah. And it tells us a little bit about the issues that are going to be coming up for us during that year and where we're going to be focused. And so with astrology, we can never say for sure this is going to happen, this is going to happen, or when. But it gives us some idea, especially when we're talking about, the entire country of where we're at. So your ascendant in your chart, which I know Richard said that he addressed yesterday, is at the time of birth, the sun, like as the earth is rotating, is at a certain degree in those 24 hours as it rotates. It's at a certain degree in the sky. And every degree of the zodiac, all 360 degrees, have an interpretation that's called a Sabian symbol. And this year, so this begins the 4th of July that we just had. Our ascendant is 17 Virgo. And I'm going to read, and these aren't to be taken literally, they're the metaphoric, okay? So the interpretation for the degree of our ascendant, our face, is a volcanic eruption, bringing dust clouds, flowing lava, earth rumblings. And it translates to torrents of emotion, anger that needs expression, pressure cooker environments, and aftershocks that keep coming. Okay? And then with every degree, there's a caution, and the caution is suppression of energy to the point of explosive disaster, tantrums, and overreactions. You really just have to turn on the news for a couple of minutes to witness all of that playing out. So this is going to be a year, and by the way, that ascendant degree, like where the sun was at the point in the sky of 4th of July, is in what's called a square, which is a 90-degree angle. So it's an aspect of tension. If we see all of these points and planets as energy, then we recognize that a square is going to be, it's very powerful squares. They're challenging, but they're very powerful. They're the most powerful aspect. So Jupiter, what's that? The ascendant degree, 17 Virgo. Uh-huh. So that was in what's called, well, it was actually 16 and change, but for Sabian symbols, we round up to, so it was 16 degrees and 29 minutes. Yeah, for the United States chart. And Jupiter is in the fourth house, and he was retrograde at the time of, at 4th of July. So Jupiter in Sagittarius relates to higher consciousness, expansion of energy. It relates to freedom and opportunities. But Jupiter is the biggest guy up there. And when he comes into contact with anything, he expands the energy of it. So all this year, we've been in what's called a square between Jupiter and Neptune. And that brings up zealotry, like where you're, a diehard, I don't know, it could be religion, it could relate to religion, it can relate to politics, but your beliefs, like what you believe, is the absolute truth, and you don't have any time to listen to anybody else. It also speaks to there being a lot of conspiracy theories and just propaganda out there. So I always say on YouTube, whenever you're watching any of us, to ask the creator to filter what you're hearing through the energy of the creator's highest truth, so that we're sure that what we're getting is accurate. Because with Neptune retrograde in Pisces and with Jupiter retrograde in Sagittarius, it could be a lot of deceit, a lot of things that are hidden, and really a lot of nonsense. Okay, so when our ascendant is squaring that Jupiter in the fourth house, it points to everyone having an opinion, and a very strong opinion, and there being a lot of infighting. Okay? And remember that we're coming up to the Pluto return of the United States, which I spoke about last year. Pluto it moves very slowly. It takes about 250 years to get around the zodiac. And as he comes to up, moving up toward the Pluto of the United States, like where it was at the time of our founding, he is she is the phoenix that rises from the ashes, which first we get to the ashes, okay? And that will play out over most likely like another 250 years, okay? I spoke about this in the End of Corruption video that I did with the council. But in this instance, it's in our, let me see what it's in the fourth house for us in the solar return, like the fourth, fifth house. So the fourth house relates to our country, and then the fifth house relates to leadership. Okay. And as Pluto returns to where he was, remember at the time of the revolution, they were sending redcoats, but it was really, we were fighting one another because our neighbors were loyalists. We weren't loyalists. You know, it was basically a civil war of sorts, even though, you know, England was kind of running the show. We were fighting all the time with our neighbors. And that's really the astrology that we have going on now. Okay. So another thing that looks, and again, can't say for sure, but it looks like as far as partners and things that we're working in cooperation with as a country, that there's a lot of deceit and a lot of mishandling of power. Okay. And it looks like we are partners with people that we don't even realize we're partners with. And as far as trade goes, it looks like, and I think that we know this just from what's going on with the farmers, it looks like because it's actually in the house of farming and then the house of worth and value, it looks like there's going to be some sort of disruption in money that we take in from others, and we'll most likely be losing money in trade. Sorry, guys, this is not like the best news I know, but I'm just making you aware of, you know, the possibilities. And that also, I wanted to mention that Metatron's asteroid is exactly with Vesta, who represents the Vestal Virgins, the women who practice the sacred teachings of Isis. And that is in our house of worth and also abuse of power. That, you know, things are being done in secret. What's that? The eighth house relates to, well, the 10th house, yeah, the 10th house can be too, yeah. But this is the eighth house. So that's, you know, where, I mean, a lot of times it points to things that go on with sex, with intimacy, but Pluto is secrets. The eighth house is secrets as well. And with Uranus there, Uranus is like sudden abrupt changes, things that come out of the blue that we are not expecting. We have Saturn and the South Node, that conjunction that's going on, and that's Saturn relates to the patriarchy, the authority, the governments, the institutions that we have within government, within banking, in all society, really. It's the institutions. It relates to the church as well. And with the South Node, anytime that a planet is with the South Node, it's the past, and it's something that we're moving away from. But that's taking place in our fourth house of home, of the country that we live in. So it points to a lot of mistrust of government, a lot of restructuring, but there are a lot of, and then also it does say that things are going to come up from our leader, okay, that cause infighting with, like, in the collective kind of thing, which I think we know that either way, when, you know, whoever you voted for, I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? So it just, there's a lot of like explosive energy and secrets. And so basically what you see on the news, and we have that playing out for the whole year. Now, I think it's fantastic that the sun is aligned with the fixed star Sirius, and Sirius relates to Isis. The ancients believed that that represents Isis, and that's again the phoenix rising from the ashes, the rise of the divine feminine. But it shows that that's sort of like we're not even appreciating it. With the moon in the 12th house, with union, in the 12th house, it's like we don't really see that this is all going to work out for. It certainly isn't maybe going to feel like it, especially for people who are not awakened. It's not going to look like this is working out so well. The vertex, which is a karmic like marker, it's not a body, it's just a point in the sky. So in everyone's natal chart, I always go in and look at, what healing we can do for that. So ours falls into the 6th house in Aquarius. Aquarius relates to, again, the collection of all Americans, and the 6th house relates to like daily work. So what that points to is that probably for everyday average workers, this is not such a beneficial time, and we don't feel very, very steady. We don't feel, secure in finances, things like that. And then we've also got Black Moon Lilith, who is like our streak of independence. The mythology is that when she found out that Adam wanted a wife who would be subservient, she checked out of the garden because she was like, no, I'm not doing that. But wherever it falls in your chart, there's always some healing to do with it too. And because it can be a little bit vicious. And that is actually with the asteroid called Nessus. And Nessus relates to abuse. And again, this is in the 6th house of like the everyday worker kind of story. Also, the North Node in Cancer, and this is something that will just be coming up collectively for everyone. We're going to be dealing with, as the eclipses go, through this next year, and they play out a bit longer than that too. We're all going to be feeling as if like things are shifting and we don't have a great sense of security around us, okay? Because that Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, South Node is in the house that stands for the foundation, like the ground that we're standing on. It's shifting, okay? So, it's really, it's serious. But I think that we've all been seeing, really, this playing out. It's not like it's news to any of us. Does anyone have any questions? No? Not one question? Yes.
If I follow you right, you talk about the Earth is going to be shaking things up.
The Earth? I mean, in the astrology, and yeah, I mean, that's been going on for quite some time. Like every moon event that we had in 2018, a lot of the players involved pointed to a lot of water and natural disasters. And those new moons will be answered in 2020. So it's basically a continuation of that energy. And like the council was saying at the end of corruption video, in order to demilitarize and so that our tax money isn't going to offense, because it's not really going to defense, it's going to multinational corporations that build weapons, our money will need to be directed somewhere else, and most likely it will be to calamities. And also what brings human beings together. I mean, it's sad to say, but we really are pulled together and united in tragedy. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Sorry, guys. This is kind of a sobering talk. But the point is that we are, as the peacemakers, just going to allow everyone their opinion. It's obvious that who is in office was meant to be in office, just as it always is, really. Because whoever's meant to win is going to win. There's not really a good guy and a bad guy. That's all the illusion that we're not attached to. So we just focus on what comes after. Right? And also, like I said, this isn't going to be like all of these events, these earth-changing events happen within the next 2 years. This is playing out over a long period of time. But the water, I think that we can see the Arctic is melting. Like it's on fire right now, and it's melting more quickly. It melted more in this last year than it has before. So that's going to keep happening. And the earth, what the divine feminine have shared with me is that the earth needs a cleansing and that the water is to purify. The oceans are polluted and they need fresh influx of water. but that water needs a place to go. So most likely new pathways in places where we didn't have water will be created. And again, that takes, creation, the process of creation takes a long time, right? When we evolve. The earth evolves. Does anybody else have a question? No? No? Not even you, Marlene? Okay.